quietly and follow along. At any point, click the pause button to catch up or take a break. Hi, today we're going to make art inspired by Alma Woodsey Thomas. We're going to begin by taking our background sheet of paper, and I like to use crayons because they show up really nice on the paper, but you could also use marker or pieces of scratch paper or leftover scrap construction paper. We're going to start with, I like to use white because it's really bright and it will show, but also it's bright like the moon. The moon you could put in any corner towards the top of the paper. I'm going to be putting mine right here in the upper right. Now, I like to start by drawing a circle and then kind of coloring it in with my white crayon. You can also make your moon any size that you desire. I'm making mine about this big, but if you want the moon to appear closer to you or really big and bright, you can make it bigger. Okay, I'm going to also be adding little tints of yellow just to make it look kind of eerie and a bright moon. If you would like to have it stand out more on the paper, you can outline the outside with a dark color, such as black. Okay, now we need a space for our pumpkins to be sitting on towards the bottom. This is usually like a pumpkin field. So I'm going to take a brown crayon and I'm going to go on this side and I'm going to draw one hill, and you can color it in. I like to use browns and greens for this to make it look like an actual pumpkin patch. All right, there is our hill that our pumpkins will be sitting on and the moon. Okay, let's start painting like Alma Woodsey Thomas. She uses little flicks of color around a certain focal point and adds it. They almost look like miniature bricks. What we're gonna start with is our moon is our brightest area of our artwork. So I'm gonna start with a bright color so it shows the reflection of the light throughout the moonlight. I like to start with white and just apply it in small paint strokes around the moon. Did you notice, artists, that I do not have a cup of water in my video or when I'm doing this artwork? That is because we're actually not going to be changing our color completely. We are going to be mixing tints and shades as we paint. So I'm going to keep the brush full of the paint that I just used. Now I'm going to mix in a new color, and that color plus white is going to give us a tint, making a lighter color. I chose yellow because it's the next brightest color and we're going towards the moon. Again, small strokes. The goal is to get them as evenly spaced as possible. And as the paint of the yellow wears off my brush, you will notice the white coming through. I'm going to next add my favorite color, which is green, and I'm going to keep going. Now I still want some more tints, so I'm going to take a little dip of white, and you'll really start to see the magic once you get more colors on your brush. I'm now creating a tint of light green. Okay, I'm going to now mix a shade of green. Now to create a shade, you want to think like shadow. We're going to add black and just keep that on our brush. I'm continuing around our focal point, which is the moon, and as that black wears off and is used, it goes back to like a dark green. When you get to your edge of your paper, just simply kind of skip over that section and join on in as you go around. I'm going to switch to blue now. I'm just going to start with our regular blue, and from there I figured I'll go either into a tint or shade. I'm going to go into a tint, so I'm going to add white, which will give me light blue. So as you'll notice, it creates a beautiful array of different tints and shades of colors, giving it movement. Now I just chose purple, and I added some black. As that purple wore off, that should give me a dark purple. Ooh, my brush is kind of going slowly back to blue. I really like that. I'm going to go to green next. And artists, just go with what you're feeling in the moment. Your goal is to remain consistent in your strokes and also keep mixing those tints and shades. You're going to fill up the rest of the paper. When you get towards the bottom near your hill, same thing as you treat it like the edge of your paper. All right, thanks. Now, when we do our pumpkins, we're going to be using pastel and we want them to really show. So we use black paper. For the purpose of this video, so you can learn how to draw a pumpkin in different orientations, I am going to use white paper. When you draw on your pumpkin, you're going to want to use a pencil. Don't worry, the lead is reflective and you'll be able to see it. I'm going to be using a Sharpie so you can see it really clear in this video. There are two types of pumpkins, one that's a little taller and skinnier and one that's a little shorter and wider, but they are drawn the same way. Let's draw with our marker or our pencil first. I'm going to do this one. I start by putting the center of my paper a little bit from the top. I'm going to leave some space for a stem, but I put a point. Then from the bottom, same amount of space, I put a point in the center like this. Then what I do is I take my pencil at the top and I curve it just slightly down, making the letter C on the left and reflecting that and doing it on the right. For the next step, I like to go up a little more, curve up, and then come back down and curve up again. Repeat that on the other side, up like a backward C, and up again at the bottom. You can see our little pumpkin bottom is starting to form. Same thing one more time, around and the other side. This determines how wide your pumpkin is going to be. Now for the fun part, I like to add a stem, which is just up on the left, over to the right, and then down on the right. For the vines, this is optional, but I like to keep my wrist loose like a violin. Start at the center point once again, and just do kind of some squiggles. Back and then forth. And let the vines take me wherever they need to go. Sometimes your vines can come towards the bottom, or maybe you do like a curlicue at the top. Whatever you do, I like to go over my lines twice just to make it a little thick. That is our first pumpkin. We're going to repeat the same for the shorter pumpkin, but it will be wider. Find the center of your page. Make sure it's turned into landscape mode this time. Here's my center. Leave a little space at the top, put a point, and repeat that same step at the bottom. Put a point. Curve like a C, and reflect it on the other side. Now I am going to go a little faster this time because this is the same steps, but if you need to pause, feel free to hit pause. We're repeating for the second layer of our pumpkin, and we're going to keep going. Now for this pumpkin, you could add a couple more layers to make it wider. I'm going to do one more. Don't forget your stem. And now the vines. Okay. That is how you draw your pumpkins. Next, what we're going to do is you're going to use liquid glue, like a glue bottle. Twist that top, and you're going to learn how to apply glue to make borders for your pastel. Remember, this is going to be on the black paper, so I'm going to be tracing my lines that were in pencil. Okay, here is my pumpkins. We have our portrait tall pumpkin and our landscape mode pumpkin that's a little shorter and wider, and we have our liquid glue. Now, when we use liquid glue, we're going to put it down on any point on your pumpkin, give it a small squeeze, and pull it towards your tummy. Do not push the glue because it will cause a split and you won't get a nice fine line. Evenly squeeze the glue and pull it to the direction you need to go. If you need to pause, you can. Turn your paper so you're more comfortable, so you're always pulling it towards your belly button. I'm right-handed, so I find it easier to rotate and turn. Whoop. Now your goal as the artist is to get your lines as consistent as possible. You're using the glue to trace your stem. Don't worry about being exactly perfect on your lines. It adds character. There is our first pumpkin. Now you can see it real clearly. Let's do our short and wide pumpkin. So did you notice it wasn't going towards my belly button that time? I'm still pulling the glue in the direction. I'm not pushing the tip forward. I'm pulling the tip behind the body of the glue bottle. As long as you are doing that, that is the technique we are looking for. I still find it helps to rotate the paper every so often. And now for my vine. There we go. All right, we're gonna let those dry and then we're gonna add pastel. So here I cut out my pumpkins and I place them on the little hill that you've drawn. It looks already really, really cool. Wait till you see how we add pastel on black paper. It's gonna make your pumpkins pop. And these glue lines will act like a resist. That's where the pastel will not touch the paper and not blend, leaving it like a black outline. So we're gonna again mix tints and shades with our pumpkin to make them look more 3D, like a form, using the light of our pumpkin or our moon. So I'm gonna begin with the top of my pumpkin that is the closest to the moon shining, so it's going to be a really light orange. Here are my different pastels. These are chalk, by the way, but they're special just for paper. At the top of my pumpkin, I'm just going to do a few strokes to kind of fill in that space. You do not need a lot of pastel for this. The reason is we're going to use it to blend into the paper with our finger. So it's kind of like brushing on the powder of the pastel towards the top of the pumpkin. Now, the bottom of my pumpkin is not going to be getting as much light. It's almost like in the shadow behind the pumpkin. So I need a darker orange. I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to put it towards the bottom. Again, you're not coloring this like a crayon, y'all. It ain't a crayon. It's a chalk pastel. So just a few strokes here and there will get you what you need. The beauty of chalk pastels is you can always add more. I'm going to begin with this. Take your handy dandy finger and start to rub it into the paper back and forth. The more layers of pastel you will add, the better it will blend and appear more a solid shape. But you need to layer the pastels after you blend them. Let's do it one more time. I'm going to come in with my lighter orange. And then I'm going to come in with like a middle tone orange this time. We call it a mid-tone. It's not quite light and it's not quite dark. It's just in the middle, and I'm going to place that in the middle of my pumpkin. Now, if you notice too, I'm still just doing strokes, and it's starting to create like a pumpkin-like texture. Give me my dark shade one more time, now that we blended that first layer. And this is when the pumpkin is really going to start to look real. Once again, let's blend. I like to start at the bottom, and I'm going to work my way up into my mid-tone. Now your pumpkin is not going to be a solid shape. Like, it's not going to be solid, the color. We want to purposely leave those stroke marks to give the texture of the pumpkin. And you can go right over the glue lines with your finger. That is the resist of the glue. Beautiful. Doesn't it look more real? I'm gonna bring it up to the camera so you can see it a little bit better. It looks so good. That texture of the pastel worked beautifully. Let's do the stem and vine of our pumpkin next. So I'm gonna begin with the stem. Again, picking kind of a lighter brown. I'm gonna go in, and you can choose a little bit darker one for the bottom. Now this is a small space, so we're gonna do the best we can. There we go. Same concept with the vines. I'm gonna choose a very light green, or you can make them brown. Sometimes I even add a little bit of like teal or blue to bring in the blue from the rest of the artwork. Same with the teal. I'm only adding like the top or the light where I want to hit it. So only like half of the vine. And then I'm gonna come in with my darker green, and I'm going to do a few strokes towards the bottom. Again, we're not coloring the whole thing like a crayon, I'm just stroking it. Now we take our finger and we're going to blend those areas together. I really like how this is turning out. I'm going to add a little bit more shadow since my vine turned out very bright from that first green. But that is the beauty of pastels, and this material is unique because you can layer it. So take advantage of that, what you can do with it, artists, okay? There we go. And I'm going to give it one more blend. Beautiful. As you can see, we have our Moonlight and Shining Like inspired by Alma Woodsey Thomas. We learned how to draw a pumpkin and make it look like a 3D form using tints and shades and with using pastels. I'm going to finish this pumpkin. You do you, artists. Thanks for joining me today.